Welcome everyone to Rolling Chassis Podcast. I'm your one of your co-hosts, Starrett Hartley, and we have my man Chris Lawrence from Auto Academics. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
All is well, all is well. So as you can read by the article, cars, SUVs, more electric, more electric, more electric. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some things as far as electric goes, and we're gonna talk about some throwbacks as well. But as well. So how was your week, sir?
Hey man, not bad. Not bad. We started getting a little bit of a 4th of July celebration in this weekend, so we hung out with some friends and family and just kind of relaxed a little bit, before getting this one day in of work before relaxing again tomorrow. How about you?
Absolutely. The work don't stop. The work continues as the beat goes on, as the great philosopher R&B singers said. So, I'm just happy to be here on this Monday. So, kicking it right off, as we get into our first topic here, according to Electrified America, they're expanding. Last week, I believe we talked about Tesla's charging system and how GM and Ford has came on board along with Tesla, which makes sense. But there's there is competing charging network, which is Electrify America. I've personally, I don't have an SUV, but what I've seen and what I've heard good things and bad things, more bad things about Electrify America versus Tesla. The fact that I think the major issue was the lack of infrastructure as far as Electrified America. It seems like Electrified America, according to this article, according to the website, is addressing that. So, Electrified America LLC, the largest open DC fast charging network in the U.S., is investing more than $2 billion into their infrastructure and access. The investment will enable millions of Americans to discover the benefits of driving and the support to build out a nationwide ultra fast community of electrics. So, what do you think about them investing and addressing some of their customers' needs and maybe trying to draw folks away from Tesla? Because I believe prior before that, Ford was using Electrified America and it clearly didn't work out well. So, I think that's why maybe Ford hopped onto Tesla. But your thoughts on this article and what it says?
So, what it is, it's just using, it's the charging standards. So you got the North American charging standard, which that's what
Mhm.
Tesla calls theirs. And Tesla has proven that their charging infrastructure is just it's just well done.
Mhm.
The infrastructure is well done, and that is one of the main benefits of owning a Tesla. If anything, that might be the primary benefit of owning a Tesla is the fact that the charging network is well done. It communicates with the cars communicate with the charging stations. For the most part, they all work. You're not running into issues with charging stations being down the same way you are with some of these other commercial charging entities. And so that was when Ford and both General Motors and Rivian, or was it Rivian? Yeah, I think Rivian. And then I think I also just saw that Volvo, they've all signed on to go with this North American charging standard that Tesla uses.
Mhm.
So in my head, I was like, oh, okay, this is where it is now. Where the Tesla charging standard, that plug that Tesla uses, that's what's going to happen now, because we got two very large companies that are using that charging standard now, or at least that will be using it in the upcoming years,
Mhm.
and as well as some other smaller manufacturers. But then this news hit last week, just a couple of days ago, where Electrify America now is going to be including that North American charging standard on their chargers. Now,
Mhm.
I'm going to assume it's probably going to be an adapter that they're going to supply or whatever, at least for their stations that are already out there. Um,
Mhm.
but they are now adopting that charging standard as well. Before, they used to just use the and forgive me for not having it right off the top of my head. They had the other charging standard though that every other electric vehicle has had except for Tesla. And what makes this notable is Electrify America is the largest charging network in the US outside of Tesla's superchargers. Okay, so that's huge. That's huge when you go and now you see that this commercial company that does charging that used to be the direct competitor to Tesla and its superchargers, now it has joined ranks with that. So now we can pretty much 99.999% say that that is the new charging standard going forward, is the North American charging standard, which is what Tesla uses. Now that Electrify America has jumped on board with that as well, there really isn't any other direction that things should go in. So that's very notable. That's very notable. And it's something that now should make people, give people thoughts as to what kind of vehicle they're going to purchase as well. Because now if you start looking at some of these other brands that haven't adopted that charging standard yet, you have to go into it now thinking, all right, so that means for every time I charge, maybe except for if I charge at home, if I already had the other standard at my house, every time I charge, I have to use some form of an adapter in order to charge, as opposed to, having a car that it natively just automatically plugs right into that charger. So, that it's interesting to me. The other thing is, I'm not sure yet if Electrify America is going to carry both charging standards on their chargers, or if they're going to just entirely go just to the North American charging standard. So that's something else that still remains to be seen, I think. But either way, it's a huge deal that not only did those big car companies join Tesla, but now also this big charging company has joined Tesla as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a big win for Tesla. Even if he doesn't sell cars, he still has a way to keep make revenue, and what's better than residual revenue, right? So it's genius, because a lot of car companies like Porsche and a lot of car companies rely on their SUV sales to fund, right, other cars and other vehicles in their lineup. So to me, it's pretty good where Tesla's made a way that whether he sells Teslas or not, the vehicles, that's a way for money to come back in the company, and he can probably release newer models, because I just was saying to my wife, the reality situation is that they're 10 years old almost now. The model, it's getting long in the tooth, and a lot of companies has caught up with them, if not surpassed them in a lot of ways. But people are loyalists, so they're willing to live with some of the things or ignore some of the things to say, hey, I have a Tesla, but there's clearly vehicles same price range that are caught up, if not better, and that's subject to opinion, right? But I was saying to my wife that I think it'd be wise, or it'd be nice if he came out with a newer model, because like I said, by me, it's cool to see him. You see him all over the place, but you see a million of them. And I said that the thing with the Teslas 10, 9, 8 years ago was almost exclusivity, right? You're paying for everything here. You pay for exclusivity, so that's the thing. Having a Tesla up to 7 years ago was like, wow, that's pretty nice. I want one. But now by me, you could throw a rock in any direction to hit a Tesla. So it's not as exclusive, but when you see a Porsche roll up, right, or you see a Lucid Air, then it's like, wow, I have a neighbor who has a Lucid Air, and every time I see it, I'm like, okay, it stands out. So gift and a curse, but I would like to see, me personally, Tesla work on or roll out a new model. He might be, who knows, he might pop it up on people, but I don't follow Elon Musk like that. I'm not a Tesla fan person. Like you said, we keep up with it and we respect it. But like I said, I think it's time for Tesla to focus. Now that they got the charging stations locked down and all that is great. I don't know about you. What do you think about that, Chris? I'm ready to see a new model, man. I'm ready to see Elon Musk put pen to paper and come up with a cyber car, right, instead of a Cybertruck. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean you know, building a car is not easy.
Of course, of course.
It's not easy. It's a very expensive endeavor, and the bottom line is Tesla is still a very small company. You
Hmm.
know, and so while he may tease and hint at cars that he's working on, but with he, I say, Elon Musk, while he may
Hmm.
tease and hint at cars that they're working on, the Tesla Roadster and the Cybertruck and you got the semi trucks and all that other stuff that he's also been teasing and all that. Bottom line is he's still a small company and it's hard. That's why all the cars that are out right now are very similar. So you got the Model S
Hmm.
that, as you mentioned, the car's been out like pretty much 10 years, but then you got the other models, but they're all still based off of that car,
The headlight, yeah, it's all this. Some of the
And
key
so
components are the same. Absolutely, you can look. I've seen them all the time, and you look at them like this is nice, but I'm like,
you can't
you can tell
from
it's
from 20 feet away or 20 yards away, it's hard to tell which model it is because they
yep.
all are exactly the same. It's just one's a little smaller, one's a little bigger. That's about it, So yeah, so I mean, I'm not surprised that he hasn't come out with another car or something that's different yet, because again, it takes big automakers a good 5 years to produce a vehicle from scratch. So for a small and this is something that they've only been doing, that they've always been doing for the past 100 years, and so now you have this startup company that they I just don't expect them to be able to do that as quickly. They do other stuff good. Like Tesla's a software company. They put their software on wheels. They make cars so that they can get their software out there. They're not a car company that just happens to do software. It's the other way around. The big car companies are car companies that happen to do software also. And so with Tesla, it's just I'm not surprised by the lack of of innovation with the cars now. I'm not surprised by that at all. Whereas the technology, that's where they're going to continue to keep pushing stuff and
So
making adjustments.
let me ask you a question: if Tesla doesn't come with a new model, let's say within 4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think the people that's looking for a newer model is not going to turn to the MQS or the Porsche or the Lucid? So I'll give you an example, right? I live in a middle class neighborhood, right? To upper middle class. You see Teslas all around. But when I go to where all my doctors and my lawyers live in the upper crust, if you will, goes, you really you don't see Teslas. You know what you see? You see MQSs, right? You see Porsches, you see Lucids. So that's what I don't know about your part here in the Northeast. The thing that's scary to me for Teslas, right? Because what I love with, and I'm pretty sure you can agree with this, it's a competitor's market. And when it's a competitor's market, us as consumers, we win, right? Because we get the best. So it's a good thing. But for me, what I'm afraid for of Tesla is that once again, like I tell my wife here, and once again, not to get super deep, what it comes down to, what I observe is that people pay for exclusivity, right? We can have a rock here, sitting here, and say this is the best rock, the only rock, and if somebody puts a value on this rock, they're willing to pay whatever and say, hey, I got the only rock, right? So you're paying for exclusivity. So the thing I'm seeing slowly is that it's good to see that Tesla's more normalizing and bringing electrics to the common man. But the reason why a lot of these people get these cars, I believe, or some get it, is because they want to feel included, as in this thing here. So what I'm saying is that I think all the people who made Teslas a thing, right, and made it trendy, are now making other car companies trendy. So like I said, that Porsche is beautiful, man. I don't know if you've seen the person. I said you're the automotive journalist, you're the professor. I'm the mechanic, as you see. I more look. My mind thinks, okay, how do they make that? But you see that Porsche in person, man. I've seen more and more of them in my area, just driving around, going to Cars and Coffees and stuff like that. beautiful cars. And I personally love the Audi, which is the sister car. I would take the Audi. I love the looks of that more than the Porsche. But once again, you put that. I've seen it next to a Tesla. I'm like, okay, yeah, the Tesla interior looks better, but the outside, the Porsche looks beautiful, man. Beautiful car. Beautiful. They did an excellent job on that car. So that's the thing I'm looking at. Like, so what do you think, Tesla? So that's what I'm saying. I know it takes time, but I really feel they need to get on the ball, no, to get something, or at least Elon Musk, an awesome marketer, just put something out there and even say, hey, 3 years down the line it's coming out. But he hasn't even done that because he was excellent at that. So it's what.
Well, he has done that. That's why we know about the Cybertruck and the Tesla Roadster and all that stuff. That's been his game plan since the beginning. Is keep teasing. You know, look what we have coming. You know, but I mean, you know, that's go ahead and put a deposit down on it. You know, but it's ether. You know, like it's nothing right now. You know, I'm not saying it's not coming. I'm just saying that, you know, that is the game plan that he does have is to tease because he doesn't have an actual functioning car right now, you know? But I mean, to answer your question, like, what do I think about that? Yes, I believe that eventually, as EVs become more commonplace, then yes, that's going to definitely become a problem for Tesla because then people will start thinking more outside of the box, so to speak. Right now, EVs are still very new to most people. Even though they've been out for years, they're still very new to most people. There's still a majority of people who have never owned an EV before, or even driven one before. And so that means they're going on what's familiar. You know, they have to go on what they're comfortable with, what's familiar. And I always say Tesla to me is like the car version of Apple, where you have the iPhone. People are very comfortable with it. When you see your neighbors with one and you see, you know, and then you're safe. You feel safe to make that purchasing decision because you're like, oh, you know, my neighbors got it. They've been happy. It works, you know, whatever. And so you buy one. And so it's been that sort of marketing that has allowed that brand to flourish. And I'm not saying it's a bad brand at all. I'm not saying it's unwarranted. It's a fantastic brand and make great products. But I'm just saying that that's how people think and why it has grown to the way that it has. And I feel like Tesla's the same thing, where it was one of the main vehicles, the main EVs that people saw and heard about first. It was all about, oh, well, Tesla though, and you know, and had that premium branding to it, you know, just like iPhone, where people think that iPhones are, you know, they're the up here, you know. That's how Tesla has been perceived as well. And so that's why we've seen the growth with Tesla. But the thing is, as people continue to become more accustomed to EVs, they'll be more willing to think outside of the box a little bit. And I agree with you that, you know, maybe in some other areas, some other wealthier neighborhoods or what have you, you might see, you know, some here and there, some sprinklings of other cars like Porsche or Audi or stuff like that. But that's just because, you know, they're able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get exactly what I want, you know, because I think this looks cool or whatever it is. And I'm not going to worry about the other stuff. You know, if it breaks, I'll just buy something else or whatever. But most of America can't make their purchasing decisions based off of that. You know, they have to look at, okay, is this going to be a safe purchase for me? Because I'm spending a lot of money on it. And so I don't want to make the wrong purchase. You know, I don't want to spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on a car that I don't really know anything about, you know? So that's why we see what we're seeing right now. But I do believe that in the future, as people become more accustomed with EVs, and that means they're going to be a little more confident in shopping, not just going with what they've seen and what their neighbors have. They're going to shop a little bit more and say, hey, you know what? You know, that Audi or that Porsche or that Ford or that General Motors vehicle, whatever it is actually the better car to buy for me at this moment, as opposed to just saying, well, I don't really know much about it, but since I see the Tesla everywhere, I'm gonna get a Tesla too, you know, because it must be okay if I'm seeing them out there, you know, that sort of mindset, which is, I believe, where we are right now.
Absolutely. And also, I forgot to tell you, I forgot to say, and we had discussed it before, not previous, but I know we've talked about it before. Ford, the Mustang Mach-E too, as well. Like I said, by me, you're starting to see those pop up too. So I said, these car companies it's a competitive market, they're taking chunks away from Tesla, and also I believe the Mustang Mach-E is really as well. Do you see a lot of them? Teslas, yes, you still see them dominate the electric space, but you're also starting to see it wasn't like it was 5, 6 years ago. You're starting to see a whole lot more. So that being said, speaking of electrics, more electrics, but sort of a form of electric, which is a hybrid. So Mazda can't has a rotary addiction. Mazda seemed to can't leave that woman that's been so good to him, that's been so bad to him alone. He keeps turning back to the same woman, and he can't leave that rotary engine. He can't leave it alone. So at the MX-30 R EV, because the MX-30 does come in a straight four. Yes, the base model and others come in a straight four. Once again, Mazda made they make a strong. I can tell you from being a mechanic, I've worked with them, I've seen them. They make an excellent, strong, straight four engine. They took it out of Miata. They put them in the MX-30. It makes sense. It's reliable. It don't break down. It's the smart thing to do. They kind of 2018. 11 years ago, they made the last 2018 to 2012. They kind of walked away from rotaries when the RX-8 kind of said goodbye, and they moved forward, and they're building niche, just like Tesla's, a very niche brand that has a reliable customer base without question. Just like how Jeep has a reliable customer base, Mazda has a reliable customer base. I've driven them; they're excellent cars. But here we go with the rotary. So the MX-30 REV, they're making an EV rotary hybrid. It's a 1.3 liter engine, rotary engine, and for some reason they are trying to reintroduce the rotary. They have sold a total of 2 million cars with rotary engines in them, 1.9 million. So let's call it 2 million with rotary. So the one thing I give to them, you said reliability. They have mastered the building of the rotary engines, but for me, seeing other mechanics work on them, they have their issues, and I believe they ironed them out slowly over the year. But I believe the one thing that killed the rotary is emissions standards. That's the other reason that also killed the rotary too as well. So they're said, okay, we're going to bring it back and also put a hybrid to it to help with the emissions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I can go on and we can go on and on about the rotaries. It's a very interesting engine and a very interesting power plant, and Mazda a very interesting company. So your thoughts on Mazda saying, no, we're going to give another shot, but we're also going to put an EV, we're going to put electric to it, make it a hybrid, and give it a shot, and throw it in the MX-30 and see what happens.
Yeah, the rotary engine.
I can hear your voice. You like, I can hear it.
Another challenge with the rotary engine was fuel efficiency. Like you mentioned emissions, but fuel economy was always a challenge with that as well, because they were always typically smaller engines, and they could make decent power, but they weren't very fuel efficient. And so, so it makes it an interesting blend of an engine to use with, as a hybrid platform, as the gas basis of a hybrid platform. This MX-30, it's going to be a plug-in hybrid, so you will be able to plug it in. Most plug-in hybrids, you can typically get up to 30 miles worth of range on battery alone before it has to go into its hybrid format or what have you. It can be a full battery electric vehicle, just full battery power alone for up to 30 miles. And so the nice part about plug-in hybrids is that you kind of get the best of all worlds. I didn't really understand them at first until I started getting a few of them for review, where it's like, okay, so if your commute is less than 30 miles, then just like a battery electric vehicle, a full EV, you may never have to use any gas in that car, because if you can go up to 30 miles and let's say your commute is only 10 miles and you're going 10 miles out, 10 miles back, you may never have to use any gas at all. You just plug it in when you get home, you're good to go. But you also have the security of knowing that I still have a gas engine with a gas tank back there where I can put gas in it, so that when I do go beyond that 30 miles, I still have a regular car after that, you know, a regular hybrid engine that will kick in, and the gas engine will you know, keep me going. So you don't have to worry about range anxiety and things like that you do with a total EV vehicle. Again, with this MX-30, it remains to be seen. You know, I mean, I obviously, you know, nobody's had really any hands-on with it yet. But you know, it'll be interesting to see how that vehicle performs, and what kind of tuning they've done to the engine now to say, okay, so you know, what kind of range, what kind of fuel economy are you able to get? You know, there's a reason why right now all you've seen is these small 4-cylinder engines running alongside the electric part of the powertrain, because when that engine kicks in, it's still going to be very efficient. It's still going to use very little fuel. You just need that engine to help charge up that battery and maybe add a little extra propulsion when necessary. But you know, as we mentioned, the rotary engine has never been that efficient of an engine, so it's an interesting take. Now, granted, I'm sure a big part of it is marketing. It's Mazda. Mazda was very well known for their rotary engines, and so, you know, oh my gosh, they're bringing the rotary engine back. Wow, you know, so that's going to bring a lot of buzz to this vehicle. Question is, what happens once the buzz subsides? You know,
Well, I smiled.
Does it stand on its merits or not?
There's an old school saying: never buy a car the first year. You know, you want to buy a car, you know, 2-3 years down the line, so they work out the kinks, right? If you buy the first year car, you're going to get the car with all the little bugs and all the little. Ever since, that's just a common amongst mechanics or amongst some people that's in the know. That's a common thing. Yes, you want to get the new car the first year, no matter how cool it is. Don't get it. Wait another year or two, because you know they're usually still working out every little. It don't matter. It's always some kinks that needs to be worked out. There's two things that if I was in the buying market that scares me with Mazdas. I always tell my wife this. A little bit about my history. I went to school as well and graduated to be an aircraft mechanic. One thing, so I have a history in aircraft, diesels, engine, gasoline. But one thing that I say with my wife with aircrafts is that, in studying them, is that ignorance is truly bliss. Like if you knew how they worked when you fly, ignorance is truly bliss when you fly. If you knew how they worked, if you knew what went into making them fly, then you wouldn't fly. I said, me personally, after going to school, I'm very nervous now when I fly because I know how the cake is made, right? I know what happens, but planes are very reliable. So being in the know, the one thing that scared me with Mazdas is I know from personal, and I've seen them. I said I've tinkered with them, but I know guys who are strictly Mazda guys. The reliability in the cold with rotaries. They hate starting in the cold. It is a tremendous uptick once the newness wear off. About a couple years, certain components wear down. They are a problem to start in the cold, especially living here in the Northeast. I've seen cars get towed into garages just to get started and then get released, you know, and it takes about a half a day to warm up the car in the garage, just in doing other things just to get them started. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes, and I looked at that, I was like, okay, wow. But here's the thing, what made the rotaries last, and I'm going to finish up for the sake of time, for RX-8 and RX-7, that they're excellent weekend cars, right? If I had a RX-7, that's why they stay so long, because not really most people drove those every day. Excellent weekend car, excellent power plant. You can get a lot of power out of them, power to weight ratio, right? So you throw a rotary in a light car, you put a turbo into it, let's party, right? Let's have a party. That's the thing with rotaries. That's what made them so great. But if you notice, after a while, they stopped throwing them in cars and everyday vehicles because they were having issues, but they kept them in because they found that, you know what, hey, they're known for the sports cars, they're known for them, they're excellent. Most people bought the sports cars for weekend cars. Very rarely bought them for everyday cars. So for me, the hybrid is a great idea to help the fuel economy. The hybrid is a great idea to help the emissions. But my thing is, if you know what you're looking at, you know what you're buying. 2, 3 years down the line, have they worked out those issues where every day the rotaries can be reliable? When it first came out, it was never an issue because cars were less reliable or harder to start with carburetors and stuff like that. So they kind of escaped by, but as car became more reliable and fuel injection, cars started right up. They became reliable instead of leaving less of the road on the side of the road. Then it started to highlight some of the deficiencies in the rotaries. But hey, listen, I said I super low key root for Mazda. I hope they win. Like I said, they built some excellent cars, and I said if you got a rotary, you know what you're doing, and you line up next to them. When you line up next to them on the drag strip, they can be a problem. So outside of that,
unless it's a cold morning.
Exactly. And if you're smart, leave your race car in the garage, a heated garage, right? Start that joint before you go to the track and don't shut it off. Just keep those. You shut. I'm just giving you a little inside baseball, folks. Don't shut it off. Start it up. Have it running behind you to the track. Don't shut it off, and you can win some races. You can give some guys, some Ford guys like me, some Mustang guys, and Chevy and Corvette guys some trouble. But so yes, they have their place, but I think they're long gone. They need to leave it alone. Like I said, I don't know what's Mazda's thing with, maybe it's a cultural thing. I know Japanese and the Asian culture, I believe, honor pasts. You know, they they honor their past. They shine a light on the past. Nothing wrong with that. And I think it's maybe just a cultural thing. So, you know, maybe we need to honor the rotary engine and give it a shot because that's what made us. I don't know. So that being said, man, any last words on the direction of Mazda and what you think about this before we close on out?
Like you, I root for Mazda. I like their products. I think they do a nice job, and that they found, you know, their own little direction where it's like they went from being, you know, these cheaper, affordable cars to now they're like kind of this premium type brand, you know, where it's like, okay, they're offering you nice interiors and all this kind of stuff, but without going, you know, full-fledged overboard, where, you know, they're no longer in normal price ranges. But then they also never deserted, you know, the whole zoom aspect of stuff where all their cars still drive very well. And that's something I've always appreciated, was they've always kept that very foremost in their design technology and their design theories and everything. And so, you know, this MX-30 with the rotary, I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them. You know, I hope that it does turn out to be something good. But you know, only time will tell. You know, we will have no idea until they actually get out there on the roads and we can get our butts in seats and actually see how they are. But, you know, like you, I'm rooting for them. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. If you're not aware, Chris has his own channel, Auto Academics, and prayerfully you can get your hands on one. And like I said, if you have questions and you have this is something you're interested in, keep an eye on Chris Auto Academics, and he'll prayerfully or hopefully get one. And then, like I say, he does a great job on his channel. Does an excellent job if you're going to buy a car. He really does an excellent job of letting you know what you're going to buy, some of the features and stuff. And he, like he said, like I always say, educates you on everything outside of the test drive, so you kind of have an idea what the features and some of the things you're going to get with the vehicle before you go it, or make them a part of your research process. Excuse me. He definitely educates you, hence Auto Academics, on these vehicles. So preferably you get your hands on one. Somebody's interested in it, then you can give them the breakdown on it for sure. So that being said, any last words before we head on out? We close on out, sir.
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm at peace.
Awesome. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. If you have a comment, leave it in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. Your thoughts on Electrified Air America and how they're growing. Your thoughts on, I love the war between the Teslas, and they call them the Tesla fanboys. Your thoughts on Tesla getting a little long in the tooth. We want to hear from you and your thoughts on that. We're neutral. We love them either way. Tell us your thoughts on Mazda and direction they're going with their I Save Rotary Addiction. That being said, from Starry Hartley the Mechanic, Chris Auto Academics. See you next week. We'll be signing off. Peace.
All right, guys. Peace.